Good morning.
Welcome back. We can take a look at some of those papers that are making headlines on across the international scene. And starting us off, as usual, is the African News website that is giving us information on what's happening in the Kenyan scene. Now, we know that the biggest news on the Kenyan political front has been the death of that communication head in the IBC, Chris Musando. So, following that, a request was made to the police authorities in Kenya, and now all the people in the, all the key people in the IBC are being given security details just to make sure they are safe. Questions were abound about why this guy was not given security details, even though he was alleging that there was a lot of threats to his life. So this would make sense that he would be the other people in similar positions would be given security details. That's what the African News website is choosing to lead with on this day. So take a look at that paper and find out what's making headlines on this country and many other countries across Africa, especially in Central, Western and Eastern Africa. And we know that they are actually covering more stories from West Africa. In Gambia, Yahya Jammeh, the former president who had a difficult time relinquishing power, has now been denied diplomatic rights to actually visit that country. So his diplomatic passport has been revoked. That's really interesting because he ran away from that country after it seemed that he would be prosecuted for things he did while in power. Let's move on to the next paper and see what's making headlines in other parts of the world. We are basing on the papers that I have sampled today that it is all about America and Africa, and basically in Africa they're focusing on Kenya because of this high stakes election that's coming up. But on the Al Jazeera website, we are taking a look at what's happening in Brazil. The current president, Michael Temer, has survived a vote in the Senate to have him ousted. Around 172 Senate members voted to have him out, but out of a majority of 513. So clearly he has made it through. But we know that his predecessor, Dilma Rousseff, did not have such a lucky time, even though she faced similar charges. So two of his predecessors have been facing a lot of corruption allegations. So this is really interesting that he would survive, even though the allegations are quite grave, given that they're saying that he was plotting to line his pockets with money from the government. This is almost similar, or even more severe than the accusations that Dilma Rousseff was facing. Now, on the CNN website, we're taking a look at the plan that Scaramucci, the communication secretary, had ahead of his job that he only held for 10 days. So a memo was sent, and a few hours later he was fired. But he had hit the ground running, and he was trying to lay out plans that is going to make sure that he works successfully as the communication boss at the White House. Clearly that would not come to pass. Then you're taking a look at the Quartz Africa website, telling us what Facebook is doing in Kenya to combat fake news. So Facebook is going to launch some advertisement on local radio stations and television stations just to help people sift through all the information online and make sure they are tapping into what is correct because of the election that is upcoming. We have had a lot of upsurge in fake news surrounding elections, and more often than not, it actually influences people's opinions of certain candidates. So in the run-up to the election, they're going to try and make sure people are well informed and can figure out how to differentiate what is factual and what is not. And next we are having the Washington Post that is telling us more on what's happening in the United States with regards to immigration. Now, Donald Trump has given a nod to a bid by the Senate of that country to have immigration halved. Immigration halved. So the Senate are going to vote on this, but it is unlikely that this bill is going to pass because of the numbers. The Republicans do not have the right numbers to have this sail through, as opposed to the Democrats, who are more liberal when it comes to matters immigration, and therefore are likely not to vote it through. So we know that Donald Trump had this vision of creating more jobs in America by making sure that not so many people come to the country. And of course, according to the Washington Post, they're also going to cut down the number of refugees coming into that country to 50,000 per year. It's much more than that currently. And of course, they there is a lottery that affords 50,000 people green cards. He's going to do away with that. But the most important thing from that story is that Donald Trump has given a go-ahead for Senate to vote for this current bill. So that's what's happening in the United States, and that wraps up World Press today. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks.